What's up guys, edrone here, and today we're going to be showing you how to bind your Mobula 7 2S brushless whoop. Stay tuned. In this video, we're going to show you how to bind your Mobula 7 2S brushless whoop to your FrSky QX7. Now, this procedure will work for other transmitter models. Keep in mind that today we're going to be working with the QX7. Now, unfortunately, in order to bind the Mobula 7, we're going to have to remove this canopy, which has 3 Phillips head screws. Fortunately, they give you a small Phillips head screwdriver in the box with the Mobula 7. Once you've removed the 3 screws, you're just going to take the canopy and kind of pull it off to the side gently. Don't tug on it because there is wires connected to your camera VTX up here in the canopy. Now you can see we have a good look at the actual flight controller and the buzzer. And what you're going to want is something non-metal, like a plastic pen or some kind of a fine point tip, to push down on the bind button. The bind button is very small, and it is located on the front right corner right there. It's a very tiny little button. Now, the good news is, unlike other FrSky receivers, you don't have to hold down the bind button while you plug in your power source. They've made it easier for us. So you're also going to need one of your batteries. And this is a aftermarket battery I purchased. It's a 450 milliamp. So if you want to run this on 1S, this is a good size. You probably can run 2 of these, but you'll have to try to figure out a way of mounting it, maybe with some rubber bands or something like that. But we're going to use this just for binding today. You only need 1 battery. You don't need to have 2. And if you're going to run the 1 battery, you need this little connector. That way you can power up the Mobula 7. Now, what we need to do is we need to apply power to the Mobula 7 while we have our transmitter in binding mode, and then we have to push and hold on the bind button for 2 seconds. Now, setting up your transmitter could be a whole nother video in itself. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to link down in the description a video that's going to help you to getting your radio set up if you've never set up a model before. If you've already set up a model, it's going to be very, very easy. All you're going to do is basically copy the model that you already have, and you're just going to copy it and then change the name. And then that will make it a lot easier to go ahead and bind another craft. So, assuming you already have a model set up in your radio,
angle mode,
you're going to get into your main menu, push these 3 buttons, get to your model select. For me, I'm going to use my Snapper 7. So we're going to go ahead and push the button in. We're going to go to copy model. Push the button. Come down here, and we're going to make it model number 5. Now, it has copied everything from this model down to model number 5. So, we're going to go ahead and select this model.
angle mode,
And now we can change things. So, first thing you're going to change is the name. So, push in on the menu button, and you're going to scroll over. You're going to page over to model name. And we're going to change this. We have now named our new model Mobula 7. And that's pretty much it as far as copying the model. Everything, if you have it set up similar to another quadcopter, is going to be copied, so you won't have to mess with that anymore. So what we need to do is we need to get the FrSky into binding mode. So we're going to push in the menu button. We're going to page over once, scroll up with the wheel, and right here, you see where it says BND? That's going to be bind. Put this in the binding mode. So we're going to push in. Now, while that's chirping, we need to go ahead and plug in our LiPo. Now, it didn't power up yet because we need to plug in this little adapter here. Okay. You hear the beeper went off, and now the buttons are flashing. We need to push and hold the bind button for 2 seconds. It's blinking slowly now, so we're going to go ahead and turn off bind. Exit. The lights went solid. See that? So we should be properly bound. Let's go ahead and unplug power.
Telemetry lost.
Okay. Now, let's go ahead and plug it in.
Telemetry recovered.
Okay. We are properly bound now to the transmitter. See, the lights are now solid. Now, one thing we can do while we have this all set up with the radio, go in your menu page here, page over, to your telemetry screen. Now, we're going to go to Discover New Sensors. You see how it is actually finding the voltage, RSSI, is now found our telemetry for the Mobula 7, because the Mobula 7 has telemetry. So now we can go to Stop Discovery, exit. Now you see we have our sensors. We have our voltage, we have our RSSI, so that's good. And then we can set alarms for RSSI and voltage and all that, but that's going to be in another video. But there you go.
Telemetry lost.
That's how you discover your sensors for the Mobula 7 to get your telemetry working. Okay, now that you have your Mobula 7 bound, we can go ahead and put the canopy back on, as we won't need to access the board anymore at this time. Because of the small size of the screws, it's actually easier to put the screws through the canopy and then tighten them down onto the posts. Tighten them down snug. You don't want to over tighten them, but you don't want them to be loose either. So just tighten them down until they really won't turn anymore. So nice and snug. Once you feel a little bit of resistance, it's definitely tight enough. One downside to this quadcopter, I really wish they would either make the bind button accessible through the top of the hood, where you didn't have to take the canopy off to bind it, or they would make the bind button a little bit bigger, even if there was a way to put it underneath of the board, so you didn't have to remove that canopy. I've done a couple of these now, so it's not that big a deal for me, but to somebody new who might be just getting in this hobby, it can be a little bit frustrating because of the size of the small screws. But here you see you have access to underneath the board. It really would be nice if the bind button was located underneath, or if it's going to be on top, have a cutout in the canopy where you can push down. We're ready to go ahead and get set up into Betaflight. And get the Mobula 7 plugged in with our USB data cable, and then we'll take a look at it in the Betaflight configurator. We're going to go ahead and take a look at the stock Betaflight settings on the Mobula 7 from the factory. We are running the 10.4.0 configurator, and this is running the Betaflight 4.0.0. So we are running the 4.0 Betaflight firmware. Now, I already went ahead and calibrated the accelerometer on a nice flat surface, but as you know, with the USB being on the bottom of the craft, it makes it a little bit harder when you're setting it down. So, but we've already got that accelerometer calibrated. Make sure you have it completely level before you calibrate. Let's go ahead and look at the ports tab. We are not going to enable serial RX because the Crazy Bee flight controller is integrated SPI bus receiver, so we don't need to touch any of this. So this is all set up correctly. Now, let's go to Power and Battery tab. Okay. Go ahead and save. Alright, got that set. Let's go to the PID tuning tab. Take a look at the stock PIDs that come from the factory. Oh wow, actually looks really decent. Doesn't look bad at all, really. We're going to fly this with the stock rates and the stock PIDs, and we'll see how it feels and how it handles. And then if I don't like it, I'll just add my own rates. But for right now, we're going to leave it just as it is, stock. Go to Configuration tab. Okay, we have the motor stop initiated. We are running D-Shot 600. 4.5 is the motor idle throttle value, which I believe is stock. We are running 8K, 2K, 8K gyro update, 2K PID loop. They've already done the craft name for us, Mobula 7. And we have the arming set to 25 degrees. And I'm going to go ahead and change this, because what this is going to do is, if the craft is upside down and you need to flip it out of a tree or flip it upside down for turtle mode, we're going to want to make a change to that. So in order to change that, all we have to do is type in 180. That way the craft will arm no matter what orientation it is in. Okay. Now here's the receiver. SPI RX support, that's correct. FrSky X is the S-Bus provider. That's correct. We have telemetry on, which is good. Air mode is off. We're going to go ahead and permanently enable air mode. And we're going to permanently enable anti-gravity as well. Here's our beacons. And now our beeper, everything is turned on for beeper. So what I'm going to do is turn all these off except for RX Lost and RX Lost Landing. Disarming, we're going to turn this off. We're going to leave the battery critically low on and the battery low on. GPS status, turn that off. RX set, we want to leave that on because that's going to basically let us set up a switch on the transmitter so that when we hit the switch, the beeper will come on. We're going to turn that off, all these off. Now any changes you make, you just want to make sure you want to make sure you hit the save and reboot button. We're going to go ahead and flip the switch we want for turtle mode.
Telemetry lost. Oops. Telemetry recovered. Oops. Oops.
There we go. So that's set now. Got our beeper set. It's good there. So once you have all your switches that you want set up, you're going to push that save button. And OSD is probably going to be the last place we're going to mess around before we take this thing out for the flight. So it looks like they've set up our voltage, our main battery voltage, our fly time, whether we're armed or disarmed, the crosshair, our amp draw, our milliamps, the name, what mode we're in, throttle position. So that's really good that they've set all this up. And this is actually in the RSSI up here. That's really good. I really don't like to have too much more than that set. So that's good. I actually like what they have set up on here. Okay. And here's all our warnings. So battery not full. So we can turn that off. I don't really want that. Battery warning. We can turn that off because this little battery icon up here will start flashing when we're low, so we don't need to have it come across the screen. Battery critical we don't need. Visual beeper we don't need. Crash flip mode I do want. Arming disabled I do want. And then here's your flight statistics that's going to post after you disarm. It's going to tell you the timer, the max speed, which that doesn't really matter because it does not have GPS. It doesn't know the speed. Your minimum battery that you had, your minimum RSSI, your used milliamps, and all that good stuff. We don't need black box. We're not using that. So we'll just turn that off. And everything else looks good. Go ahead and save. We should be able to go ahead and take this thing for a quick little line of sight hover just to make sure that everything's working okay. Go ahead and disconnect. Okay, we're going to go ahead and access our OSD. In order to do that, you're going to take your throttle switch, going to go halfway from up and down, and you're going to yaw left, and you're going to pitch forward at the same time. So just like this, one movement. That's going to access your OSD in your goggles. And now that we're in the OSD menu, you can change things like your VTX Smart Audio, your band, your channel. Like I always have all my quadcopters set up on race band 1. You can change your power if your VTX has different power settings, which this one does not. Just make sure you confirm and save your changes in your OSD menu. You can also change things like your PIDs and stuff like that. So it's really, really cool. Definitely love the Betaflight OSD. Okay, here we go with the Maiden line of sight flight right here in the garage with a Mobula 7. Now I'm just going to use one 450 milliamp battery for this test just to make sure that it hovers in angle mode and it's pretty stable. And then what we'll do is we'll do another couple tests. We'll do an outdoor flight in another video, and we'll do FPV and line of sight outside, and we're going to run this thing on 2S and see just how crazy this thing handles. So here we go. Oh, the buzzer works. Let's check our beeper out. Beeper's working, so that's good. Let's go ahead and arm test. Okay, 2 of the motors armed out of the 4. So we might have to do some adjustments in, we could do in Betaflight and in the BL Heli Suite. Let's go ahead and see if we can get it take off. Okay, we have liftoff on 1S. Feels pretty good. It's drifting forward a little bit, so might have to do some adjustments. But you see it's kind of drifting forward there. Nice and docile on 1S. A little bit of adjustments we need to make. But we are flying. That's good. Maiden flight of the Mobula 7 is a success. Oh yeah.
Telemetry lost. Telemetry recovered.
Go ahead and bring it down. All right. So we have a success with the Mobula 7 for the maiden flight. Just got to make a couple more little adjustments and fine tune it, and I think we'll be good to go. Thank you guys so much for watching. Please like, share, and subscribe. More Mobula 7 videos to come on the channel. Till next time, guys. Edrone out.